I honestly don't understand what Blake and Ryan are still doing at this point. They're out there trying to save face, but they're only wasting money and resources and drowning it even further.
Here's how it works. Ryan Reynolds filed a motion to dismiss, basically saying, Judge, I don't think I should be in this case. Now get over here. We think you should be in it. You called our client a predator, X, Y, and Z.
Is that we don't get to use Ryan Reynolds' wild imagination because there's apparently footage. High quality film.
Ryan Reynolds is reportedly losing his cool as Blake Lively once again finds herself at the center of public criticism. The two are drawing attention for their questionable choices, behind-the-scenes drama, and what some are calling made-up stories, perhaps in an effort to shift focus from the growing list of controversies surrounding them.
Oh, she now feels like her entire life has been turned upside down. Yeah, and it's your fault.
But the internet doesn't forget, and no matter how many scandals they've racked up, this time it looks like Ryan could take Blake down with him.
Oh, poor Blake. It must be so tough out there. Look at this forlorn. God, her outfits are the worst.
Apparently, Blake Lively figured showing up at her daughter's upscale horse show looking somber would earn her some sympathy. But let's be real, attending a high-end event that costs more than most people make in a year doesn't exactly say, I'm struggling. Too harsh? Maybe. But sometimes the truth stings.
This article in the Daily Mail, an exclusive today. Oh, forlorn Blake Lively breaks cover. Far from Hollywood as insiders reveal new private battle. Creeping regret over Justin Baldoni lawsuit.
And no, the general public didn't buy the sad face either. It was the Daily Mail that really pushed the narrative, trying a little too hard to cast her as an exhausted mom barely hanging on.
Blake Lively, she's really struggling here. She's really struggling in these two frames when everyone else is laughing around her, and clearly she is too.
But honestly, one look at the whole scene, and it's hard to feel sorry for her. She's surrounded by wealthy moms sipping overpriced lattes while their kids ride ponies in slow motion. It's hardly the Hunger Games.
So, she's really struggling. The relatable Blake Lively is so forlorn and struggling at a horse farm.
And credit to Annie Sr. for calling it like it is. Watching rich folks act like they're the victims might be the most unintentionally funny show out there. Blake's trying to look heartbroken, meanwhile everyone else is just soaking up the sun, laughing, and living it up like they're extras on a fancy reboot of Gossip Girl.
As her daughter competes in equestrian acts, most people can afford to do that, right? To head off to horse farms for their daughters to compete in equestrian events.
Her little act was about as convincing as a toddler pretending to cry after getting caught sneaking cookies. It was so obviously fake, it stopped being sad, and honestly, it circled right back to hilarious.
This whole article is trying to paint it as how difficult it is. Blake is striving for normalcy in her life, but the past few weeks have been incredibly challenging.
When those photos hit the internet, people weren't feeling sorry. They were rolling their eyes. The general reaction? Wait, did she really stage a photo op just to look miserable?
Oh, she now feels like her entire life has been turned upside down. Yeah, and it's your fault. You could have just moved on with your life and not sued Justin. You could have celebrated the win of that movie and just let it be an awkward moment in your time and later move on and figure out a way to actually help your PR.
After everything that's happened with her lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, no one would be shocked if her PR team's big idea was, let's cry next to a horse and hope everyone forgets she's suing a guy for basically breathing wrong. But instead of helping her case, it just made her look like the lead in the most expensive, low-budget pity party ever.
Instead, you've tripled, quadrupled. What's the one past quadruple? Quintupled? I don't know. You've done it so much, 9-tupled, 10-tupled yourself into the worst spot you could be.
The worst part? It's not just embarrassing. It's destroying whatever little credibility Blake had left. Every time she forces a smile or throws on a sad hoodie, forgetting the paparazzi are right behind her, people just roll their eyes even more.
I don't understand why she isn't figuring out how to stop the bleeding like yesterday. If Justin were willing, and if the rest of that team were willing, she should be figuring out whatever she can do to just shake hands and move on.
Instead of digging her way out, Blake just grabbed a shovel and said, let's dig deeper. That horse show stunt only reminded everyone she's not some innocent victim. She's just another brand with too much money trying to seem relatable and failing so hard it's almost impressive.
Some of these people, all of them, just want this to be over. At a certain point when this lawsuit when they get so heavy and you're in so the weeds, there is a point where you do just want to just wave the white flag and both parties agree, we're done. We're going to move on, let each party do what they want to do.
Once the public decides you're fake, even your real tears start to look like bad acting. Blake's whole comeback plan is basically self-sabotage with extra steps. Critics aren't even sugarcoating it anymore. They're calling this one of the biggest PR disasters of the year, and honestly, they're being generous. Every move Blake has made since filing that lawsuit has somehow made things worse.
After the disastrous events, she's trying to pretend like there's nothing wrong. Clearly there is. But I don't see much damages because you're able to live your life the same way. Doesn't seem like you're losing much opportunity.
She's out here acting like she has a full team of consultants, all of whom secretly can't stand her. Sad horse shows, awkward interviews, questionable planted stories. It's like she's teaching a masterclass in how to ruin your public image.
You're still promoting your business that you claim failed. Nothing failed, Blake. And anything that did fail was due to your own actions. That is the reality. That is just clearer and clearer as more evidence piles up and time. That's what's happening here. But
whatever strategy she had, it crashed harder than Ryan Reynolds' face when he realized he'd have to clean up this mess too. Instead of looking powerful, Blake looks reckless. Instead of looking relatable, she looks desperate.
it is incredibly frustrating to read.
People aren't seeing Blake the actress anymore. They're seeing Blake the chaos machine, constantly stepping on rakes and acting surprised each time. And honestly, the worst part is, it's only getting worse. Her sad photo ops aren't working, her PR team's half-hearted attempts aren't helping, and even her most diehard fans are getting tired of pretending this isn't a complete disaster. Blake's not just fighting Justin in court, she's fighting her own reputation. At this point, it's a knockout, and she's flat on the floor.
The Wayfarer Party's opposition confirms the central thesis of Mr. Ryan's motion to dismiss. The FAC is meritless list of grievances and hurt feelings designed to retaliate against Blake Lively for raising SH or retaliation claims.
And Ryan's losing it because he was never supposed to be caught up in this mess for over a decade. He's built one of the cleanest reputations in Hollywood. Charming, funny, untouchable. But now that golden boy image is starting to crack, and fast. It all started when Reynolds got dragged into Blake Lively's legal battle with Justin Baldoni by speaking at the wrong time to the wrong people.
As if you haven't done that yourself in your own past interviews and everything else, but I digress.
According to court documents, Reynolds allegedly called Baldoni a predator during discussions with agents at WME, one of Hollywood's top talent agencies. This wasn't just a casual comment. It was a serious accusation.
The opposition reveals something much worse than the FAC's failure to state valid claims against Mr. Reynolds. Stunningly, it confirms that only 3 of the Wayfarer parties, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, Wayfarer, have articulated any legal claim against Mr. Reynolds at all.
These were major industry players. Within weeks, Baldoni was dropped by WME, and a career riding high on the $250 million success of It Ends With Us took a major blow. In response, Reynolds filed a motion to dismiss on February 29, 2025, arguing he shouldn't even be included in the lawsuit.
He's trying to claim, well, my comment was to Justin, if we're going to hear that, and that doesn't affect everybody else. As if calling Justin an actual predator doesn't affect all of Wayfarer. It is beyond me, because it does. But as I talked to Christopher Melcher, he agrees it's silly, but there very likely could be a request from the judge to just amend the amendment, the complaint.
His main defense is that he was simply sharing an opinion. But in defamation law, especially when reputations and careers are on the line, that excuse carries far less weight than he seems to think.
So the likelihood of anything happening is that there is a likelihood the judge will just ask the Wayfarer parties to tighten up or clarify or more specifically mention why all of Wayfarer is affected by Mr. Reynolds.
Calling someone a predator, especially without legal proof or a criminal conviction, crosses a serious line. It's not just gossip. It's an accusation that sticks, and it stuck hard enough to cause real damage to Baldoni's career.
And they'll be able to probably come up with a reason or justify it and put it into writing as to why, and then we'll still continue on with these lawsuits.
For Reynolds, The stakes go beyond legal fees or court appearances. He's risking something much bigger, his public image. This is the same Ryan Reynolds who was named one of the highest paid actors in the world by Forbes in 2020. The same guy behind hits like Deadpool and Free Guy.
It is an absolute waste of time in part of the way. And Reynolds aggressively trying to declare like all this is nonsense is just all bluff and smoke.
Reynolds isn't just seen as an actor. He's seen as a brand. Companies like Aviation Gin and Mint Mobile didn't partner with him because he was risky. They did it because he was safe. Watching him scramble to defend himself now feels like watching a brand have a meltdown in real time.
It's right here. Reynolds approached Baldoni's agency, namely Executive WME, and expressed his deep disdain for Baldoni, suggesting his agency was working with an actual predator. At a later date demanded that the agency drop. Anyway, it's all there, Ryan.
Known for his calm, sarcastic cool, Reynolds' legal actions now signal real panic. Court insiders told Deadline on March 12, 2025, that his team is pushing hard to keep him out of depositions.
Really? If I were the judge, I would just be so annoyed with all this repetitive nonsense. Like, pay attention, dude. Be more on top of it. I know it's a lot of stuff.
They're terrified of what might come out if agents or third parties are forced to testify under oath. Reynolds isn't acting like a man confident in his innocence. He's acting like someone desperate to escape before everything falls apart.
By calling out Justin, the face and clear creative head of Wayfair doesn't affect all of these people, and that Ryan wasn't instrumental in being part of that campaign along with Blake to destroy Justin's character and therefore Wayfair is just mind-boggling to me, dude.
The panic becomes even more obvious when you look at the bizarre arguments his legal team is making. One of the most embarrassing moments came when Reynolds' attorneys tried to claim there's a significant legal difference between calling someone a predator and a sexual predator. This argument came straight from his March 7th, 2025 court filing in the New York County Supreme Court.
On top of that, he tries to claim that the FAC didn't allege actual malice to blah, blah, blah. He goes in, but it's like, dude, a quick search will remind you right here.
The argument seemed almost laughable. As commentator Dave Neal pointed out on the Rush Hour podcast the same day, nobody in Hollywood hearing the word predator thinks of a science fiction alien from the movies.
I honestly don't understand what Blake and Ryan are still doing at this point. They're out there trying to save face, but they're only wasting money and resources and drowning it even further.
They think of Harvey Weinstein. They think of danger, abuse, manipulation, pretending there's a clean, harmless meaning of predator. When talking about a public figure doesn't just insult the court's intelligence, it insults everyone paying attention.
They just hope to get them enough annoyed that maybe even Justin and team eventually just kind of fine. I want this done. That might happen.
Adding to the mess, Reynolds' team tried to blame Baldoni's own past interviews to justify the predator label. They pointed to his 2020 podcast appearance on Man Enough, where he discussed evolving views on consent and masculinity. But using that to paint him as a predator isn't just a weak stretch, it's legally absurd. In those interviews, Baldoni never admitted to any crime or predatory behavior. In fact, his whole point was the opposite. That cultural conversations around consent have changed, and men need to be more conscious.
Whether you like it or not, they all might finally agree to just be like, okay, we're done. Can we finally agree to... I would not be surprised if it happens, guys, at a certain point in the next coming months. We'll see.
This attempt to weaponize Baldoni's vulnerability backfired badly. Legal experts, like Christopher Melcher, speaking on Popcorn Planet on March 20th, 2025, pointed out that courts don't look kindly on twisting facts to excuse defamation. Reynolds' defense, built on shaky semantics and misrepresented quotes, makes him look dishonest and scared. Quite the opposite of the confident public figure fans are used to.
Here's how it works. Ryan Reynolds filed a motion to dismiss, basically saying, Judge, I don't think I should be in this case. And then Justin Baldoni's side says, yeah, get over here. We think you should be in it. You called our client a predator, X, Y, and Z.
Behind the scenes, it's even worse. Multiple reports from TMZ and Page Six insiders in early April say Reynolds' legal team is scrambling, allegedly working overtime to patch up gaps in their arguments after early hearings didn't go their way. One source close to WME even told Entertainment Weekly that agents are quietly distancing themselves from Reynolds, fearing that being dragged into the deposition phase could hurt their own careers.
He mightily called Justin Baldoni a sexual predator. Of course, to his WME agents, Justin Baldoni got dropped, and Ryan Reynolds says, hey, I have the ability to do that. I can call him whatever the hell I want, my First Amendment right.
This isn't just a bad look, it's a slow-motion implosion. Legal experts agree that courts are unlikely to buy semantic tricks like the predator versus sexual predator argument. Defamation law is focused on the impact of the words on the listener, not on clever technicalities. And the impact here is clear. Reynolds' words played a role in destroying Baldoni's agency ties and tarnishing his professional reputation.
As one example, despite the complaint's preposterous $400 million damages claim, the opposition concedes that the complaint in fact alleges no actual monetary harm whatsoever, instead relying exclusively on a defamation per se theory that, even if it were valid, which it is not, fails to allege cognizable damages for any of the complaint's other claims.
What's even more telling is that Reynolds isn't approaching the lawsuit with the confidence you'd expect from someone who believes they're innocent. Instead, every move, the rushed filings, the half-baked excuses, the frantic legal maneuvers, screams damage control.
Right, Justin Baldoni is a producer for a production company, Wayfair, that just made a $250 million movie, right? They've received around $250 million in revenue for It Ends With Us. So this production company has set the bar high to what they can do.
At this point, even longtime Reynolds fans are starting to see through the act. Reddit threads and Twitter Spaces exploded with comments after the March 20th filing, showing a shift in public sentiment. What was once admiration has turned into skepticism. Posts on celebrity gossip forums like Duke Moa and Lipstick Alley now mock Reynolds for trying to lawyer his way out while still profiting from his good guy image.
If you are going to cancel Justin Baldoni without any sort of evidence and all of that, if you're just going to bring him down, then you're effectively bringing down a $250 million company at the same time.
Since February 2025, when Ryan Reynolds officially filed his motion to dismiss in New York County Supreme Court, not a single agent at WME has publicly commented on the allegations. No leaked audio, no insider testimonies, no mysteriously timed anonymous sources speaking to Deadline, Variety, or Page Six. It's a silence that feels unnatural for an industry built on gossip and betrayal.
So Ryan Reynolds continues in his introduction. The opposition reveals something much worse than the complaint's failure to state valid claims against Mr. Reynolds. Stunningly, it confirms that only 3 of the Wayfair parties, Baldoni, Heath, and Wayfair Studios, have articulated any legal claim against Mr. Reynolds at all.
Insiders at Entertainment Weekly pointed out on March 24th, 2025, that even longtime WME staffers, who usually love to trade secrets, are refusing to discuss Reynolds' comments about Justin Baldoni. One Hollywood publicist, speaking anonymously to TMZ on March 29th, described the atmosphere at WME as full lockdown mode. Emails are being monitored. Meetings are hush-hush. People aren't just staying quiet out of loyalty. They're terrified of losing their jobs.
Every Wayfair party, other than Mr. Baldoni, brought a federal lawsuit alleging at least one cause of action that they know they had no legal basis to assert.
And with good reason. Reynolds isn't just a client at WME. He's a cash machine. His 2020 Forbes profile ranked him among the highest-paid actors globally. Movies like Deadpool 2, which grossed over $785 million, along with endorsement deals with companies like Mint Mobile and Aviation Gin, bring in revenue that most of WME's other clients can't match. In Hollywood, power equals protection. Right now, Reynolds holds that power, and that's why even those who might know exactly what he said about Baldoni are staying quiet. They understand what's at stake. Speaking out doesn't just risk getting fired. It could mean getting blackballed across the entire industry.
And I don't think the agents would lie. If I'm an agent at WME or anywhere, even though your ass might be on the line and you might burn a bridge with Ryan Reynolds, do you really want to lie under oath?
The bigger question hanging over this silence is a troubling one. Would these agents lie under oath to protect Reynolds? On April 2nd, 2025, legal analyst Emily D. Baker suggested in her YouTube breakdown of the case that depositions could force agents into impossible positions. Once sworn in, lying means perjury, a criminal offense. But in a town where loyalty often equals survival, it's not out of the question that agents might dodge, deflect, or forget critical details rather than risk burning a bridge with a client as powerful as Reynolds.
I think if they were under penalty of perjury, we might get some more answers. Those are my thoughts. We'll have to see what the judge has to say. But whether Ryan Reynolds is dismissed or not, he's a tertiary character. He's a big tertiary character, but this is really Blake versus Justin, right?
And that's the real risk ahead. The depositions. As Popcorn Planet reported on March 28, 2025, if the judge refuses to dismiss the claims against Reynolds, discovery will move forward quickly. That means agents, assistants, even third-party witnesses could be dragged into interviews under oath. If even one person cracks and admits that Reynolds' predator comment was serious and meant to harm Baldoni, the entire case shifts dramatically. Blake and Ryan's team won't be able to spin their way out of it. They'll be trapped by the very truth they've been trying to suppress.
We shared the actor who says he's willing to testify, the guy who played the doctor. And of course, he is friends with Justin Baldoni.
While Ryan Reynolds' silent strategy seems coordinated and tense, Blake Lively's damage control attempts come off as chaotic and desperate. Blake has tried pushing a different narrative to the media, hoping something will stick. It all started with a Daily Mail story published on March 19th, showing Blake at her daughter's equestrian competition in South Salem, New York, described as forlorn and struggling. The piece seemed carefully crafted to paint her as a victim caught in a personal crisis. But critics, like Andy Seener on Popcorn Planet, immediately ripped it apart, pointing out the absurdity of claiming to be struggling at a luxury horse show attended only by the wealthy.
Baldoni's side says because you're married to Blake Lively, it's presumed you know more info than what some random person sharing an opinion online would know. And because of that, you are stating that he's a predator, are stating it as a fact.
Instead of sympathy, the move triggered a backlash. Comment sections under the Daily Mail article exploded with skepticism, and on Twitter, posts with the hashtag #BlakelyFail briefly trended on March 20th, with users mocking the sad rich girl narrative. Since then, Blake has tried pivot after pivot. First, it was normal mom life stories through staged paparazzi shots in upstate New York, released via Just Jared on March 25th. Then came curated leaks about her focusing on family, reported by US Weekly on March 27th. But none of it worked. The harder Blake pushed the idea that she was just a normal woman facing tough times, the more fake it felt to the public.
The Wayfarer parties claim that the court cannot conclude as a matter of law that Baldoni is a sexual predator. All right, so that's the first time they say sexual predator, right? They've been trying to wean off from the sexual predator as if people are going to forget that that's what he said.
Worse, a new theory is spreading like wildfire across forums like Reddit, that Blake's PR team is bribing or manipulating media outlets to frame her as the victim. Posters pointed to the sudden shift in tone at sites like Daily Mail and People, both of which are typically quick to criticize celebrities, but have been offering suspiciously sympathetic coverage. If even a sliver of this theory is true, it spells disaster in the court of public opinion. Once people believe you're controlling the media, everything you say afterward loses credibility. Even genuine emotions start to look staged. And right now, every sad photo Blake posts, every quiet source speaking about her emotional state, only digs her deeper.
Mr. Baldoni has acted in a predatory manner. Likewise, to the extent the court finds that the Wayfarer parties otherwise sufficiently allege some unidentified statements to the New York Times and unnamed third parties, there would be no different effect on the reader between Mr. Baldoni's own statements and those unspecified statements.
This shift is clear when you look at social media engagement numbers tracked by Social Blade. Between March 15th and April 5th, Blake Lively's average Instagram post engagement dropped by 36%, signaling that even casual fans are tuning her out. The ones still talking about her aren't praising her strength, they're mocking the endless spin. At this point, public skepticism runs so deep that even if Blake stood in front of a microphone tomorrow and tearfully admitted fault, half the internet would assume it was rehearsed. She's lost the one thing that kept her brand intact for years: believability. And in Hollywood, once the audience stops believing in you, it's a long, brutal road to get it back. But hey, maybe we're just being dramatic, right? Let us know if you're buying Blake's sad little horse show act, or if you're laughing like the rest of us. Drop your thoughts in the comments.